Incredible moment, CEO revealed as dad by adorable quadruplets, sparking a touching love story. The room buzzed with excitement, laughter rippling through the crowd at the charity event. Mark Thompson, the 38-year-old CEO of a booming tech startup, stood at the center of it all, the embodiment of success. His tailored suit glistened under the lights, but beneath that polished exterior was a heart locked in for years. Little did he know, tonight would change everything. Mark's gaze fell upon a group of 4 dazzling quadruplets, each bubbling with enthusiasm. Their eyes sparkled as they darted around, their joyous giggles piercing through his emotional armor. It took only an instant for him to recognize them. They were Sarah's children. A wave of nostalgia crashed over him, washing away years of carefully constructed distance. Memories of him and Sarah, laughing, planning a future, flickered like fireflies in his mind. He felt a tightness in his chest, a mix of longing and hurt. Images of family dinners, movie nights, and innocent playdates crashed against his hardened business facade. But as the quadruplets raced towards him, shouting, "Look, it's our special friend, Mr. Mark," his heart thawed a little. Their excitement was raw and pure, pulling him back from a void where hope had dwindled. Each hug they gave felt like a moment suspended in time. Their innocent questions about his work and the world stirred something deep within him. "Do you make robots?" one of them asked, eyes wide with possibility. He chuckled, trying to ignore how their laughter echoed the life he missed. The onlookers, seeing the warmth emanating from Mark, began to murmur, smirking knowingly. Was this the spark of a romance rekindled? As he observed Sarah from a distance, her determined expression spoke of a strength that spoke to him. Single-handedly raising quadruplets couldn't have been easy, yet she stood tall, embodying resilience. The spotlight shifted as he learned snippets of her struggles, nights spent juggling work and parenting, the financial worries, and a heartache that surely mirrored his own. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With renewed courage, Mark took a deep breath, prepared to mend old wounds. Just then, a news camera zoomed in, capturing the moment as whispers of his identity danced in the crowd. CEO of tech titan Mark Thompson, seen with Sarah's children. Igniting a storm of media frenzy, questions of wealth and responsibility began to swirl around him, threatening his simple moment of joy. Then fate dealt another blow. His startup faced an unprecedented crash, sending him into a spiral of uncertainty. He gazed at the quadruplets playing, their laughter like a beacon guiding him through the fog of failure. In their innocence, he found hope. Just as Mark decided to step towards Sarah, with a heart full of possibilities, an unexpected twist loomed. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. Would he bridge the chasm between past and present? With Sarah's unwavering strength in sight, and the affection of the quadruplets igniting his spirit, Mark stood at the edge of renewal. But could he reclaim what he once lost, or would he remain trapped in the shadows of fame and failure? Mark took a hesitant step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. The noise of the crowd faded into a dull roar as he focused only on Sarah, who had just turned towards him. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, time stood still. She looked as beautiful as he remembered, her hair flowing softly around her shoulders, eyes filled with surprise and an emotion he desperately hoped was joy. "Mark," she said softly, her voice barely breaking through the noise. Her brow furrowed, uncertainty creeping in as she glanced at the quadruplets who were still nuzzled against him. "I didn't know you'd be here." He swallowed hard, trying to muster the words he had rehearsed 1,000 times in his mind. I wanted to see the kids," he said, his voice shaky. "I've missed you all." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Just as quickly, the playful laughter of the quadruplets snapped their attention back to the moment. They tugged at his sleeve, their faces alight with excitement. "Can we show him the puppet show, Mommy?" one of them pleaded, bouncing on their toes. Mark's heart swelled at the sight. These children were the embodiment of hope, of a family he longed for but felt unworthy to approach. He glanced at Sarah again, searching her eyes for a sign of acceptance, of warmth. Her gaze softened, and he could feel a crack beginning in the wall they had both built. "Of course, sweethearts," she replied, her tone gentle but reflective. "Just let me check with Mr. Thompson first." The corners of her mouth turned up slightly, a tiny smile breaking through, and it felt like a lifeline being thrown out as they moved toward the makeshift stage where the children's colorful puppets were set up. The crowd shifted around them, some still recording, others leaning in to catch a glimpse of the once reclusive CEO engaging with his past. Mark knelt so he was eye level with the quadruplets. "What do you need me to do?" he asked, a grin spreading across his face, embracing the moment. "I can help you make the puppets dance." The kids squealed with delight, and suddenly, he was in the performance, swaying and mimicking the silly movements of the puppets. Laughter erupted. It wasn't just the children. That infectious sound was shared by the audience, drawing them all in. Sarah watched from the sidelines, her heart a mix of pride and uncertainty. She felt the pull of their shared past, the memories of what could have been. The chaotic years of single motherhood had worn her down, and she had often felt like she was carrying the weight of the world. Mark's presence reignited hope, reminding her of the bond they once shared, but could they navigate the paths they had walked to find a common ground again? The atmosphere thickened with possibility as Mark looked over his shoulder at Sarah, inviting her into the moment. "Come on, Sarah. Join us," he called out with unrestrained enthusiasm, a smile lighting up his face. The room hushed for a moment, waiting to see if she would comply. The children shrieked, their excitement infectious. She hesitated, the tide of memories crashing down around her. Did she dare step back into his world? In that brief moment, she could feel the fears and doubts bubbling beneath the surface, battling with the flicker of hope ignited by the joyful scene before her. As all eyes turned to her, Sarah stood frozen, her heart racing wildly. Would she leap into the unknown again, or retreat into the safety of her learned isolation? Mark's eyes held an unwavering sincerity, a plea for a second chance, and in that heartbeat, the room shifted yet again. But just then, a loud crash came from the side of the stage. An errant puppet had fallen, tangling the intricate threads of their fate. Would they find a way to untangle their hearts, or was this just another sign that some things were meant to remain in the past? The puppet lay sprawled on the floor, its colorful fabric now a stark contrast against the chaos of emotions swirling in Sarah's heart. The laughter ebbed momentarily as all eyes turned towards the fallen puppet, and in that silence, she felt 1,000 thoughts racing. Mark's laughter was upbeat, a sound that had once been music to her ears. "Oh. Looks like we need a rescue mission." He sprang up, reaching towards the puppet without hesitation. The children bounced in delight, feeling the pull of their father's energy, and suddenly she remembered that spark of joy that had once brightened their home. She stood still, envisioning memories of shared laughter and late-night conversations enveloped in warmth, a stark contrast to the chill of their separation. But now, the warmth felt dangerously close to something igniting again. "Come on, Mom." One of the quadruplets tugged at her, widening their eyes in earnest pleading. "It's a puppet emergency." With shaky resolve, Sarah stepped forward, grappling with the weight of her past. As she approached, the mood shifted. The air seemed to lighten, charged with possibilities. She knelt by Mark, both of them reaching for the fallen puppet. Their hands brushed together, a fleeting touch igniting a flicker of connection. "I've got it," she said, her voice breaking slightly. Underneath the laughter and innocent chaos, she felt the pull of something deeper. Vulnerability coursed through her as she regained her composure, a smile hesitantly blooming. Mark's gaze met hers, and it was like a bolt of electricity surged between them. The laughter of children faded into the background. In that moment, it didn't matter that years had slipped away between them. They both felt it, the magnetic force drawing them together, reawakening emotions long buried. The children, oblivious to the tension between them, started giggling as they pretended the puppet was performing elaborate stunts. "Let us make it dance," they chorused, bringing the moment back to joyousness as they twirled and jumped around their parents. For a moment, it felt like a time capsule had opened. They were a family again, laughter echoing around them. "I missed this," Mark said softly, brushing a stray strand of hair from Sarah's face, a gesture so intimate that her breath hitched. "I missed you." "Nobody told you it's complicated," she whispered, her heart torn. "Complicated can be worked through." "I want to try," he urged earnestly, the sincerity lighting his face. She inhaled sharply, a wave of emotions crashing over her like a tidal wave. Could she truly unravel the doubts that threatened to drown her? Just then, another puppetry distraction dragged them back to reality. More applause and laughter erupted from around them, but the moment they had shared laced the air. Sarah's heart hammered. Could she let go of her defenses? Could she trust this revival of emotions, or was it just a fleeting whim in the midst of a chaotic celebration? With the quadruplets leading them in a new puppet dance, she caught Mark's eye, and somewhere deep inside, she felt a flicker of hope tethered to something grander than her doubts. But as the crowd's cheers swelled, so did her uncertainty. I don't know if I can, she began, but just as quickly, another crashing puppet interrupted her, sending them both into another round of laughter. Yet lingered the question, was she really willing to open her heart again? And as they both stood there watching their children, laughter echoed, but deep inside, a decision sat heavy, waiting for the right moment to rise to the surface. Would she take the chance and allow love back into her life? The laughter blurred around Sarah, a mix of joyous shouts and playful claps filling the air. Mark's infectious energy stirred something forgotten within her. She looked at their children, their faces gleaming with unfiltered happiness, and felt a tug at her heartstrings. Every giggle reminded her of why she had fought so hard to shield them from the uncertainty that loomed between their parents. "Let us show Mom and Dad how the puppet can really move," one of the siblings yelled, rallying the others for another round of fun. They flailed their arms dramatically, mimicking puppets, and it sent a wave of laughter through the crowd. Sarah felt herself start to smile genuinely, the warmth of the moment beginning to melt away the barriers she had built. "You know, they're smart kids," Mark said, his tone playful yet serious. They both watched as their children easily morphed into a playful whirlwind. "They can feel it," he continued, his eyes still on the children, but she felt the weight of his focus. "They want us to be happy. They want us to be us." Us, the word hung between them. Sarah's heart raced, her mind a whirlwind of past scars and potential futures. Could they really go back to what they had? Or was this just a gleaming illusion, a moment fueled by the brightness of their children's joy? A small voice broke through her thoughts. "Mom! Can you help me make the puppet fly?" One of the quadruplets tugged on her hand, pleading with those big, innocent eyes that seemed to latch onto her heart like Velcro. Before she could answer, Mark knelt down beside them. "I think I'm more qualified to train a flying puppet. What do you think, Sarah?" His teasing grin cut through her thoughts, reminding her of simpler times and playful banter. With a shaky breath, she knelt too, caught in the warmth of their little nest of laughter and love. "All right, let us bring the puppet to life." And with that, the three of them poured their creative energy into the puppet. The children led the way, making dramatic motions and imitating flying pins, while Mark and Sarah let their laughter be the fuel for this imaginative flight. In that moment, her heart began to loosen its grip on caution. Each laugh and playful scream from the kids brought a sense of halcyon innocence back. She could almost see the past uncoiling before her. When had they lost this sparkle? "Why don't we take this show on the road next weekend?" Mark proposed, lifting the puppet high and swaying it like a sports mascot. "A family puppet theater." The suggestion sparked a flurry of excitement among the quadruplets. "Yes, yes." They cheered, jumping up and down. Sarah's heart fluttered. A small part of her was thrilled at the prospect of spending more time together. But another, deeper part of her clenched tight. "Are you sure?" she asked, hating the nagging questions. "Can we really, Sarah?" His voice was unwavering, steady as a heartbeat. "Let us not think about what happened. Let us focus on what could happen. We take it step by step. Together." The sincerity in his eyes threatened to crack the wall she had been meticulously building. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, she felt the swell of hope and fear collide within her. As the puppet flipped in the air, a reckless joy exploding in the laughter of her children, Mark gently pulled her closer. "We'll figure it out," he whispered, "I promise." But deep down, a dark cloud loomed, threatening to steal away all this newfound joy. Could she trust that promise? And just as despair began to whisper doubts in her ear, the world around them shifted. "Look! The puppet's going to fly." one of the kids exclaimed, pointing excitedly. Against the backdrop of their whimsical chaos, Sarah's heart raced. What was the price of letting go? As that question hung in the air, she felt the weight of their lives swirling. Could this really be a new beginning? Or just another fall into the unknown? This moment felt crucial, a deciding point in her heart's journey. Yet, before she could process it all, her thoughts were pulled towards the laughter erupting from their children again, reminding her that love was a dance, not a debate. And as they twirled around, caught in the momentary bliss, Sarah wondered if she was truly ready for this comeback. Where would this unexpected roll lead her next? The next morning rolled in with golden sunlight spilling through their kitchen window, catching the dust motes floating lazily in the air. Sarah was taking deep breaths, trying to capture the warmth of yesterday's moments. It was a new day, a chance, she kept telling herself. Yet, the weight of uncertainty was still slung heavily across her shoulders, dampening her resolve. She poured a cup of coffee, letting the steam fog up her glasses. How can I be so grateful and so afraid at the same time? She whispered to herself, the echo of laughter from the previous day still dancing in her mind. Mom! Mom! We want breakfast! The kids bustled into the kitchen, their playful energy crashing into her peaceful thoughts. They were a whirlwind of color, bouncing around the room, faces bright and demanding. She couldn't help the smile that crept onto her face as she turned to them. All right. How about pancakes? She suggested, fishing her old griddle out from the cabinet. The excited squeals that erupted were music to her ears. There was something freeing about cooking together, a rhythm they fell into easily. As flour dust settled on their cheeks, they took turns mixing, pouring, and flipping. Just like the puppet show. One of her children laughed, covered in flour like a mini baker. Yes. Just like that. Sarah responded, heart swelling. The fun spilled into their breakfast, laughter flowing like syrup over warm pancakes. Mark slid into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. His presence was grounding, and it pulled her emotions tight again. They look like they're having a mini flower explosion in here, he chuckled. It was a simple remark, yet it carried a warmth that made her stomach flutter. Remembering their playful exchanges made her heart ache with memories. Join us! One of the kids yelled, and Mark moved to gather ingredients, sinking into their chaos with an ease that felt almost comforting. As they cooked, an idea seeped into her mind. Could they really do the puppet show? Fear twisted with hope again, knotting in her belly. Every laugh from the kids fueled a spark within her, making her question if she could really let go of the past. Hey, you two! Mark called out to the children. How about a puppet song while we eat? Something to get us ready for next weekend. The kids erupted into a version of the Itsy Bitsy Spider, their voices soaring with silly approximations of the lyrics. Sarah leaned against the counter, watching them, her heart swelling until it felt almost too full. Sarah? Mark's voice cut through the very edge of her happiness. She met his gaze. You're with me, right? His question hung thick in the air. She wanted to give him an answer filled with certainty. But inside, doubt twisted, winding tighter. I wanna be, she began, the words caught in her throat. Mark took a step closer. Then let us not overthink this. Let us jump in. His voice was steady, but there was a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. What if we fall? She whispered, scared of what that leap might mean. What if we fly? He countered, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly in that familiar smile that had always ignited a spark within her. She looked down, contemplating the weight of his question. Wouldn't it feel amazing to truly fly again? The room filled back with giggles and playful banter as their children continued the song. Sarah could feel the air electric with possibility, but doubts were still mulling in her mind, fluttering like the wings of trapped butterflies. As breakfast wrapped up, the conversation flowed freely, filled with dreams of the puppet show and excitement buzzing in the room. But in the stillness of her heart, a storm brewed. Could she let go of her fears? Was she really ready for the leap? And as they polished off their plates, a thought nagged at her. What if the biggest risk was really to stay still? With that question lingering, the laughter of their children became a backdrop to her tumultuous thoughts. Would this weekend finally bring the family they all yearned for? As her gaze shifted to Mark, she knew the choice was near. Was she really ready to grasp what was waiting just beyond her hesitation? The morning light began to wane, a gentle reminder that the day was slipping away. Sarah stood at the kitchen sink, washing the remnants of breakfast while the laughter of her children echoed through the house. The air was still filled with the smell of maple syrup and warm pancakes, but her heart was tugged in two directions. She wanted to revel in this moment, to soak in every bit of joy, yet the weight of her uncertainty loomed over her. Mark was helping the kids clean up, their playful bickering adding warmth to the space. As Sarah wiped the counter, her thoughts drifted back to the puppet show. How could she entertain the idea of both joy and fear? The puppet show felt like a leap, a way to reclaim something they had lost over the years. But could she muster the courage to step out of her comfort zone? "Mom! Can we make puppet characters next?" one of her children shouted, breaking through her thoughts. The enthusiasm in their voices reminded her of the childlike delight she used to feel. "Sure. What do we need?" she replied, feeling a spark of excitement flicker within her. Mark turned to her, his eyes sparkling with the same enthusiasm. "How about we use old socks and paper? We can make crazy faces. Can I help?" A voice piped up from the table, and the rest joined in, clamoring for supplies. Sarah chuckled, feeling the storm within her calm just a little. Here, with her family, was where she wanted to be. What was stopping her from making this happen? As they gathered materials, Sarah found herself smiling more. Mark nudged her shoulder playfully, whispering, "See? It's going to be fun. Just like old times." The kids were in full swing as they crafted their puppets, laughter bubbling up and filling the living room. Sarah watched as her children transformed old socks into colorful creatures, their imaginations running wild. Yet, in the backdrop of happiness, her heart still trembled at the thought of performing in front of an audience. What if it all fell apart? "Mom, look at this," her youngest exclaimed, showing off a sock puppet with big googly eyes and a frizzy yarn wig. Sarah's heart swelled at the sight. Her child was so proud, and for a moment, her worries faded. "That's amazing," she encouraged, feeling a wave of warmth wash over her. "Okay, everyone. How about we test our puppets after dinner?" Mark suggested. His excitement seemed to infect the room, and she felt the swell of hope rise once more. But then a shadow flickered across her thoughts. What if they were terrible? What if she couldn't connect with the audience as they once had? "Mom! You'll be amazing," her oldest chimed in, as though reading her mind. The unconditional belief of her children became the gentle nudging she needed. "You'll be a puppet superstar." Sarah laughed, her heart racing. What if their unwavering faith was what she needed? "All right. Let us do this. But I need a good name for my puppet." The kids brainstormed wildly, throwing ideas at her, and for the first time that day, she felt alive with joy and anticipation rather than fear. As night fell and the kitchen transformed into a crafting hub filled with glitter and laughter, Sarah caught Mark's gaze again. "You really think this will go well?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper, vulnerability creeping back in. "We will fly," he said softly, that familiar warmth enveloping her. He reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. It was a small gesture, but it carried an ocean of meaning, one of trust, love, and a path forward. But as they prepared to wrap up for the night, uncertainty crept back in, whispering doubts. What if the performance didn't live up to their dreams? With a deep breath, Sarah pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the glowing faces around her. The echoes of laughter filled her heart, and she dared to imagine a future where they all soared. But what she didn't expect was how quickly the world could shift again, threatening to pull everything she had built right out from underneath her. The sun set outside, casting long shadows across the living room. Laughter filled the air, but a bittersweet feeling lingered in Sarah's chest. She wanted to stay in this cozy bubble, where imagination thrived and doubt felt distant. Yet, the noise outside grew louder. A car door slammed, voices argued. Her heart sank as she recognized the tone. Mark's brother, Jake, was back in town, and he always brought tension with him. puppet superstar, huh? Mark remarked, trying to lighten the mood, but Sarah could sense the worry beneath his playful tone. She glanced towards the window, watching as Jake's figure loomed closer. Memories of past family gatherings came crashing in loud disagreements, sharp words. Jake's insistence on success often felt like a noose tightening around her and Mark. It was as if he wanted them to live by an invisible script, one that didn't quite include their little family. "Mom! Look at my puppet!" yelled their youngest again, his excitement cutting through her anxious thoughts. She turned just in time to see the child bounce over, holding the puppet high like it was a trophy. Its goofy expression made her smile, if only for a moment. "Perfect. You know what would make it even better?" Sarah's voice was bright, but she felt the worry lingering like a shadow. "Some decorations. Let us make a party hat." Her children cheered, rushing to gather supplies again. But as they crafted, Sarah's mind was elsewhere. What would Jake say about the performance? Would he mock the joy they found in simple things? As the laughter echoed in the house, she felt like she was straddling two worlds, one vibrant with love, another shadowed by expectation and judgment. A sudden knock on the door jolted her from her reverie. Everyone in the room froze. Sarah exchanged worried glances with Mark. "I'll get it," Mark said, maintaining his calm demeanor as he walked to the entrance. Sarah watched him take a deep breath before he opened the door, and there stood Jake. Tall, imposing, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Mark," he greeted coolly, the tension palpable, and the room seemed to shrink in size. "Hey, Jake. What brings you here?" Mark's voice was steady, but Sarah could tell he hoped to deflect whatever was brewing. She could almost hear the gears turning in her brother-in-law's head. "Just thought I'd check in. Heard you're doing some sort of puppet show?" There was a condescending edge to Jake's words, a veiled threat hanging in the air. Sarah felt herself bristle. Did it matter to him that they were creating memories? That their children were thriving in this mess of socks and laughter? "Actually, it's a family project," Sarah interjected, her voice firmer than she anticipated. "We're having fun and pushing new boundaries together. Not everything has to be a competition, Jake." Jake's eyebrows shot up, surprised at her boldness. "Right. Sure. Just remember, fun doesn't pay the bills." Mark's face hardened slightly. "It's about more than that, Jake. We're happy." With the uncomfortable silence hanging between them, Sarah's mind raced. Could she step into her light, just like the puppets they had been creating? Or would her brother-in-law crush this moment, dragging doubts and fears back into the forefront? "Stop. You're ruining this." One of her kids shouted suddenly, surprising everyone. The innocent accusation hung in the air, charged with raw emotion. In that moment, Sarah's heart leapt. Those words echoed her own fears but also gave her a glimpse of her children's fierce spirit. "Let us not make this a battle," Mark said, trying to mediate. "We're just having fun here. Family fun." But Jake only scoffed, stepping further into the home. "Fun? Really? Let us see if it's still fun when enough." Sarah exclaimed, the sudden outburst surprising everyone. She took a step forward, the weight of the past and the longing for the future coiling inside her. "This is for the kids, Jake. For us. We're doing something real here. Can't you see that?" Jake paused, his expression shifting, and Sarah held her breath, hoping for a change, a single moment of understanding. She had taken a stand, but would it be enough to protect her family's joy? The room was charged as Sarah waited for his reaction. Would this be the moment that separated their lives, or could they find a way to bridge the growing divide? The air crackled with tension as everyone held their breath, focused on Jake's reaction. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing her hopes and fears. Would he finally see? Would he step back? Would he understand that family meant more than competition or judgment? Jake's gaze shifted between Sarah and the raucous joy of the children gathering craft supplies, their giggles a contrast to the heaviness in the room. For a moment, his composure wavered. Just a flicker of something. Was it regret? Embarrassment? She couldn't tell. Then, as if flipping a switch, he composed himself, folding his arms tighter across his chest, planting his feet firmly as though bracing for impact. "Look," he started, a hint of condescension creeping back into his tone, "this is sweet and all, but it won't get you anywhere. You can't build a life on puppets and dreams." "Why not?" One of the kids fired back, eyes wide and earnest, the boldness surprising Sarah. "We're having fun. Isn't that what matters?" The child's defiance hung in the air, as unexpected as the spark it ignited. At that moment, Sarah felt a rush of pride. Her heart swelled as she saw her little boy standing up for their family, their silly project, for every time joy had triumphantly displaced worry in this home. "Exactly," Sarah exclaimed, stepping closer to the children. "This is about joy, creativity, and togetherness. This is what we choose to invest in." Jake's expression hardened again, but there was a flicker of uncertainty. It was as if he wasn't just facing Sarah and the children, but a mirror reflecting back the version of himself he had always been: pressure-driven, unyielding, a man who had chased success but struggled to recognize true happiness. "Listen, Sarah Jake, just stop." Mark's voice cut through the air, steady and calm. It had a weight to it. "If you can't support us, you don't have to be here. We're okay, really. Don't you see?" The tension shifted, and Sarah caught her breath. Every instinct told her this was the turning point. Could Jake truly choose understanding over dismissal? "What I see," Jake said slowly, "is a family that's playing pretend when they should be preparing for the real world." Sarah opened her mouth to respond but found no words. She faltered, looking at Mark, searching for support, for allies in this moment. Then, the unexpected happened. One of the kids, the youngest, scurried up to Jake, still clutching his puppet. With a small, earnest voice, he asked, "Are you not happy, Uncle Jake? You could join us. It'll be fun." Jake looked down, and for a brief moment, Sarah thought she saw cracks forming in his poised exterior. Could a child's innocence break down walls that had stood for years? "Fun," he echoed slowly, almost to himself. "Yeah." The child thrust the puppet closer to Jake. "You can be a puppet, too." The corners of Jake's lips twitched, a reluctant smile battling against the serious lines on his face. Just then, the moment shattered when sounds of a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. All heads snapped in that direction, and Sarah's heart sunk again. Was it her daughter experimenting with her own brand of chaos? Jake's demeanor shifted instantly, irritation surfacing once more. He straightened and glanced at Mark, who locked eyes with Sarah, a silent agreement passing between them. They had to protect what remained of this fragile moment. "Let us go check that out," Mark said, motioning toward the kitchen, his voice soothing as he tried to diffuse the rising tensions. As they started walking toward the noise, Jake began to follow, but then hesitated. "Look," with a glance over her shoulder, Sarah saw the uncertainty lingering in his eyes again. She felt her own resolve strengthen. This wasn't just about saving an evening, it was about propping open a door for something deeper. "Maybe take a moment to think," she said softly, and then turned away to join her family. Could this truly shift? Could she watch the walls crumble, the light of understanding replace the shadow of conflict? As she stepped into the kitchen chaos, excitement bubbling around her children, a tiny flicker of hope danced in her heart. But deep down, the question lingered, would Jake find the courage to embrace family over fear? The kitchen was a mix of laughter and cries as pots clanged and ingredients were strewn about. Sarah entered to find her daughter, Lily, standing triumphantly over what appeared to be a tower of precarious cookie dough, teetering dangerously close to a full collapse. Nearby, her twin boys were engaged in a flower fight, their faces dusted white, looking deceived by the allure of their culinary task. "Oh!" Lily squeaked, eyes wide with a mix of pride and impending disaster. "Hold it steady!" Sarah shouted, her heart racing as she rushed forward. She caught the edge of the cookie tower just in time, her fingertips grazing the sticky surface as she salvaged what remained of their ambitious project. A wave of laughter erupted from the twins. "Mommy saves the day!" They cheered, their voices echoing in the warmth of the kitchen. Sarah smiled despite the chaos. This is what joy looked like: messy and unpredictable. "See?" she called out, glancing back toward Jake, hoping he caught a glimpse of their world. This is real life. Jake stood in the doorway, his eyes darting from the mess to the joy radiating from the children. For a moment, he was frozen, unsure whether to join or retreat. Sarah felt that moment stretching, a bridge forming between the chaos of the kitchen and the structured life he led. "Come on, Jake." Mark's voice chimed from beside her, encouraging. "Yeah." One of the boys whooshed in his sugary excitement. "You can help, too. We need more hands." Still, Jake hesitated. His usual posture of confidence felt strained against the backdrop of laughter. The kitchen was a foreign landscape for him, one he didn't know how to navigate. Sarah took a breath. This was the opening they needed. "Just come help," she said gently, motioning towards the scattered ingredients. "We've still got cookies to make. We could definitely use an extra set of hands." Something flickered behind his eyes, a conflict, perhaps. In that moment, Sarah could feel the door slowly creaking open. Would he step inside, or would he turn away again? He took a cautious step forward, observing the chaos. "You really think this is worth it?" His voice was unsure, as if asking permission to embrace the messiness of life. "Absolutely," Mark responded, crossing his arms as he beamed with encouragement. "It's worth every flour-covered minute." Sarah smiled wider, the warmth spreading through her as she watched his resolve begin to soften. In a surprising move, Jake approached the counter where Lily had placed the cookie dough. She held out a spoon, her eyes beaming with admiration. "It's fun, I promise," she insisted, handing him the spoon as though passing the torch. Jake hesitated, glancing between the eager faces of the children and the towering kitchen creations. Then, with a low chuckle, he took the spoon. "Okay, fine. But just so you know, I'm not making any promises about how these will turn out." The room erupted in cheers, and Sarah's heart raced with hope. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. The walls he had built for himself trembled under the weight of newfound participation. As they began mixing ingredients together, flour dusting their hands and laughter bubbling up, Sarah felt a soothing warmth emerge, a connection formed not just in the kitchen but between them all. Here was the messy intimacy of family, the reality of life she had always treasured, but then, amid the laughter, the sound of the door creaking open interrupted their joyful cocoon. With another quick glance, Sarah caught a glimpse of the darkness outside, a reminder of the challenges and fears they still faced. Would Jake's newfound willingness withstand the trials ahead? A hush fell over the kitchen as everyone turned towards the doorway, uncertainty creeping back in. "Who else is there?" Jake asked, his voice strained, tension returning as shadows loomed. Sarah's heart raced. Would this be another obstacle to overcome, or an opportunity to lean into family, solidifying their bonds? The answer hung in the air, heavier than the flour that surrounded them. The moment was palpable, charged with uncertainty and hope. Sarah could feel a shift happening, not just within Jake, but around the very fabric of their family. They had gone from a precarious tower of cookie dough to a moment where they could embrace a new rhythm, and it felt like they were all balancing on the edge of something beautiful. Mark glanced at the door, then at Sarah with a flicker of reassurance. "We're good here," he said softly, drawing everyone's attention back to the vibrant mess of flour and laughter. "Yes!" yelled Lily, her tiny hand smeared in dough as she brandished a cookie cutter like a sword. "We're making the best cookies ever." Her cheerful challenge etched smiles on every child's face. Jake's hesitation lingered, but he took a deep breath, his brows furrowing while he edged closer to the mixing bowl again. "All right," he finally responded, a wave of resignation washing over him as he rolled up his sleeves. "Let us see if I can make these the best or the worst cookies ever." The laughter that exploded from the kids felt like a bomb on Sarah's worries. The kitchen filled with chaotic joy as they flailed and mixed, flour plummeting through the air like tiny snowflakes. And as each child took turns pitching their wild ideas into the mix, Sarah felt history shift. They were crafting not just cookies but a future. "Let us make a cookie in the shape of a puppet," one of the twins shouted, and the others echoed in delight. "Perfect!" Sarah beamed, the warmth of the moment igniting new courage within her. "Let us bake our way to the puppet show. We'll have special treats for everyone." The familiar fear snuck back for a fleeting moment as she realized how close the performance loomed. What if it flopped? What if it didn't live up to their dreams? But just then, Jake nudged her shoulder lightly with a smirk, breaking up her thoughts. Hey, remember, as long as we have fun, it can't be a failure, right? His words struck a chord, resonating deep within her. A hidden part of Sarah felt like it was unfurling, as if each moment spent laughing together was unraveling the knots of fear she'd held onto for so long. Suddenly, through the weight of uncertainty came a glimmer, a realization that she set the stage for something extraordinary, for her children, for herself. I think we're all going to be superstars, chefs, and puppeteers, she declared, radiating newfound warmth around the kitchen. They assembled their cookie characters with enthusiasm. A sprinkle here, a dash of food coloring there. Laughter rang out as Jake reluctantly tried to improve on his puppet cookie while struggling to keep the dough from sticking. He looked up, caught between his serious nature and the silliness he observed. Still, another flicker sparkled in his eyes, a remembrance of a brotherhood he had perhaps neglected. As they stepped around the mess, Mark caught Sarah's gaze and nodded toward the door, where more family members seemed to gather. She could feel a ripple of fear lapping at her heart again as Jake's posture tensed. "We'll manage" was unspoken between them. Indeed, at that moment, the conversation outside carried through the walls, and Sarah realized it was more than just Jake's shadow, it was their entire family. The sound of laughter jostled with the commotion of her children, and she felt a wave of warmth that soothed the tension in her chest. "Watch out for the culprits," Jake said, pointing toward a duo swinging the door open, revealing their mom and dad, their own parents arriving to see what all the fuss was about. A sudden nervousness struck. Would her parents embrace this new rhythm? "Mom! Come help!" her child yelled, excitement bubbling up as they burst through, drawn by the scent of warm cookie dough. Jake turned. Sarah took a breath, feeling the weight in her chest begin to lift. She squeezed Mark's hand tightly, both of them holding onto the moment, ready to embrace what was coming next. Her voice grew confident. "Look! We're doing a puppet show this weekend." Just then, laughter roared, and the warmth surged forward again. The chaos in the kitchen summoned smiles. Sarah felt alive, a surge of determination washing over her, and through the hubbub, Jake relaxed, the tension in his shoulders easing ever so slightly. "What's this about a puppet show?" her father inquired, joining in the merriment. With that being said, as flour rained down onto their faces, Sarah's fears began to wash away. "We need you all in the front row. Every amazing show needs an audience." She giggled, brushing powdered sugar off her cheeks, and felt the weight of disapproval slowly seep away. "The children erupted, and we'll make cookies to share." And just like that, a bond started to mend. The door opened just a little more, the walls slowly crumbling. This chaotic kitchen became a symbol of their shared futures, a patchwork of laughter and love. "Now, let us get to work," Mark shouted, tossing a handful of flour towards the ceiling, breaking the remaining tension, sending everyone bursting with laughter. "Let us find out if we can really fly," Sarah whispered to Mark, her heart swelling with warmth. A promise echoed in their laughter and joy, one that reminded her of the power of choosing love amidst chaos. Together, they tackled the cookie dough, weaving their fears and anxieties into the art of their delicious creations. Each sprinkle felt like a promise of fun, each laughter echoed dreams of family, and entwined in that warmth was hope anew, the family they were always meant to be. This was not just an evening filled with cookies, this was the start of something beautiful, a journey of heart and laughter with a powerful undertone that no matter the challenges, they could face anything together. And as they gathered for the first baking triumph, one thought remained in Sarah's heart: she could finally see them taking flight. It was going to be an incredible journey, one worth every silly step along the way. Now is your time to share this extraordinary journey with your friends. You need to subscribe immediately to keep up with all the latest stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm, and let us spread these moments of joy. Comment below right now about your feelings on this amazing transformation. We want to hear from you, and remember, don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this heartfelt journey. These tales are meant to be shared and celebrated together.